Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another replay analysis brought to you by me, Mr. ViBE Senpai. And today we have a Diamond 2 level Zerg versus Protoss. And today we're going to be looking at Spectre.
Good luck, have fun, and beat him, probably.
Spectre's games. Oh, yeah. Alright, boys. Let's check this out. Let's see how this goes, okay? Let's see how it goes. So, first things first. Against Protoss, one of the biggest things I would say is a great idea for you is definitely going to be going for... If you're dealing with, like, annoying stuff with Protoss in general in the start of the game, 16 hatch is ideal. And you have 16 right now. We'll see if this happens. But one of the most important things to be doing here is getting your drone, ripping a drone off your mineral line around like 160, 170, 160, 170, somewhere right around there. And then you just go down and take your natural. You'll get down there probably like half a second to 1 second just before you have the minerals, but at least this way your drone will be in position right away. If you pull off, like, let's say at like 160, it's pretty solid. It's pretty much right on time. The one reason why I say it might not be right on time is honestly because right now you have 2 out of 4 close patches not being mined optimally. That's the only reason why I say it might be like a second late. If you pulled off around 160 to 170, because this patch right here in the middle is only got 1 drone on it, and this patch right here on the side only has 1 drone on it currently. Actually, just kidding. You only have 1 patch being mined by 1. I take it back. I thought this one only had 1. But you did. Actually, your drone got pulled off a little bit late, honestly. Little things like this, we'll see what happens, right? But little things like this do make a difference. I want to see exactly when you pulled it off. Just for my sake. I just want to see it exactly. So it should be being pulled off right about now. It should start moving. You just should grab it and start moving. Yeah. You pulled it off, you know. It's fine. I give you a thumbs up on it. I can't really fault that. You started moving it pretty much when I told you to. Or when I would have liked you to have done that, so I can't fault. There's no fault there. You're doing it right. So you should be getting here right around the same time as you have 300 minerals. So that's good shit. Nicely done. And your drone just got here, and you just got 300, so perfect. Okay, good job. I wanted to fault you on something so far, but you passed the test, and I can't fault you yet, okay? The only thing I can fault you on is not stacking your close patches, which is, it's a minor thing, but it's, you know, it's still something. So I would say, because, like, realistically, in the beginning of the game, you have nothing to do. You always have nothing to do, so there's no reason why you shouldn't do that. You should always be doing that. Anyone out there, always practice that. Always get your close patches stacked up with 2 drones, and then let the rest of them kind of fill in. Ideally, you want to have 2 drones per patch all the time, but close patches having 2 is very, 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 very important. All right, so looks like you're doing my kind of a build, because you're going to pull another drone off, and you're going to go to your 3rd base. Yeah, so you're doing actually my build. This makes this really easy then for me to give you very good info here. Because I do this build every day, baby. Alright. So you see gates at your 3rd. And if you would have noticed this right away, let's see where your camera is. You're noticing it. You do notice it. I want to see exactly when you noticed it. Like what time and how long you had to react. So far your build is fine. Your timings of your drones and your making drones and your timings of your hatcheries are fine. No real problem. Okay, you didn't have a lot of time to react, but the second you see this, you are still selecting the drone. No, you're not. Just kidding. I would say if you do run into this, best thing you can do right now is not build this. If you don't see this though, and let's just say, like, the gateways are there, okay, for instance, and you don't even know they're there because your drone didn't spot it. It's okay if you take a third. Just know it is harder to defend this if you take a third now. What I would love you... we'll see if you actually take the base. You do. So what I would love for you to have done is scout how many gates there actually are, because it's still fogged out. You don't know if there's gates over here. You don't know if there's gates over here. The pylon is most likely going to be right there, I would assume. You don't know how many gates there are. And there are only 2. Because here's the thing. This tells you, this information right here, if you would have scouted this tells you a lot. And here's what it tells you, okay? The amount of gateways tells you how much pressure this Protoss is going to put on you with gateway pressure. Plus, it also... there's 2 ways this can go about happening. Number 1 is this guy could go for... or sorry, there's really 3 ways. The first thing that could happen is this guy could go for a zealot pressure into... just like an expansion, okay? He could be like, I'm gonna try and like kill the Zerg's like natural, or like his third base or whatever, okay? He could harass whatever he sees. Most likely he's not gonna win the game if it's just 2 gate pressure, because his idea is he wants to slow you down while he expands. That's one way it could go, because it's a mineral based build. The second way it could go is because he's not going proxy 4 gate, you have to wonder where the hell his resources are. And if he does not expand, it increases the ability for him to harass you. And that could be cannon rush. He could combine a cannon rush with gate pressure. So if we don't see more than 2 gates, I would immediately send my overlord around my base. I would be like, all right, is my base good? Are we good? Or maybe your overlord's a little bit out of position. You could even pull a drone. Just make sure like you're not getting cannon rushed, because what this looks like, if it's 2 gate and it's going to be aggressive, which a lot of times it will be. It's really rare when a Protoss would be like, I'm going to proxy 2 get you and then just expand. It could happen. You gotta know that it could happen, but it's rare. But if you didn't see any type of like anything in your natural, anything in your main, anything else at your third, if nothing else was happening, if you didn't see cannons being shoved in your face, you would actually be looking for a natural then with your overlord. You would be expecting it. But if by the time your overlord gets here, and let's say you still see nothing, it's 100%. If you don't even know yet at that point, it's guaranteed there's something on the map somewhere that's even more aggressive than this. And the final thing it could be, which is probably one of the most rare things it could be, but it could be this. If it's only 2 gate pressure, or maybe like a 3 gate pressure, if it's not 4 basically, if it's 2 or 3 gates, this guy could totally build like a cybernetics core either right here or right here with a gas, and then he could have a probe proxy shield batteries with like adepts or stalkers or something like that, if there's no cannon rush. So if there wasn't a cannon rush and it's something less than 4 gates, you could assume the shield battery follow-up is possible, so getting like Zergling speed would be a great way to counter that, because Zergling speed would counter adepts trying to shade into your base. It would counter stalkers poking back and forth to shield batteries, because you could just wrap around them and catch them if they run away from the batteries. You could also overpower them over time, etc, 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 stuff like that. If it's 4 gate, a great way to deal with it would be making a few spines, making nothing but lings and queens, and just holding your mineral line basically, like leapfrogging the spines forward to stop the zealots, like to zone the zealots out more or less, while your queens and lings just pick them apart. And then the great way to do it is your queens and spines will fight the overwhelming amount of zealots already in your base, whereas your lings you make should actually run past the initial zealots in your base and run to reinforcing zealots, because a queen and a zergling are both faster than a zealot if the zealot does not have charge, and if it proxy 4 gates you, there's no charge. Like, this is too early to have charge. So yeah, like lings killing isolated zealots would be great there. And now finally, if it's the final thing, which is
yeah,
if it's the like, let's say, you know, 37173, thank you very much for the 8-month sub, man, much appreciated. If it's proxy 2 gate and that's it, and this guy's actually cannon rushing you with that as well, one of the best things you can do is, honestly, at that point, pull your drones. If you plan on letting this base finish, you need to pull your drones. This is one of the few situations I would say pulling your drones is actually good, and the reason why is because he will have less ability to SimCity. He'll have less ability to SimCity and like protect his cannons because he has the expenses of zealots and gateways as well. And these gateways are also not located where cannon rush would be. So they can't be a wall. Like, it's just brand new buildings, you know what I mean? And you actually see 2 probes in your base, so that's a definite tell now. The second you see 1 probe, you should be following that probe. Like, you should be, like, if your overlord's here, and the probe ever goes like, let's say it goes like this, and it disappears into fucking fog, your overlord should, no matter what, no matter if you saw this or not, your overlord should always scout where the probe is going. Because the worst thing you can let happen is be like, oh, my overlord's chilling right here, a probe just disappeared into fog, and it's just building a pylon. And now it's building a cannon. And then your hatchery finishes and there's like a cannon that's just about done and a second cannon and a third cannon that are on the way. And you're like, ah, fuck. It actually built stuff. You should always expect the Protoss is going to probably do something like that. But the second you're, as a Zerg player, the second you see 2 probes, no matter what, if there's 2 probes in your base, this already is a cannon rush. I would 100% expect you to be getting cannon rushed without a doubt now. So this is now, because we saw the second probe, and also, I think as well, if you pay attention to this, check this out. We can go back even further. Look at this. Watch your first overlord. Or really, just watch the... We don't have to watch our first overlord, just watch the mini-map. Probe. So first, okay, that you already honestly right now you should know what build he's doing. You should know what he's doing, and this is why. Okay, if you like paying attention to the little things, it tells you so much information. If a Protoss player scouts your base from his main to your main, what is the probe? What is the pathing of the probe? What path does he take? It goes like this. If I'm a probe and I'm right here, I will go like this. Down the ramp, straight across, down that ramp, up that ramp, down, into your main, and there we go. So the probe should be going like diagonal across the map. It's the shortest distance to get to the base. If you see a probe come from the fucking south of your overlord, from your third, you should already know some shit's going down. Just by seeing the first probe do this, you're like, wait, what? Like, there's no reason he should come from here. That means he fucking physically told the probe at the start of the game to go like this. Instead of going diagonal, it went down the ramp, down this ramp, and it took a south detour to go over here. And the only time anyone ever does that is if they're cheesing you. It is if they're cheesing your ass. And then he went around to your third, and we can see clearly he's already started the buildings. It is like, you know, if we were looking at the replay. But if I was in your position, I would immediately be like, what the fuck is the probe doing? Why is the probe coming from the south end here? It's coming from here rather than directly. It doesn't make any sense. So I would automatically, if I were you, I would automatically be like, something's over there probably. And the second I saw this, I would then tell myself, so the first probe would make me think that, right? The first probe would make me immediately think something got proxied. But the second probe would make me think, okay, maybe it's not a proxy anymore. There's a chance it's not. Maybe instead this guy just wanted to like try and sneak a probe into my base. And he's going to cannon rush me. Because why the fuck is he sending a second probe to my base right now? There's no reason why he should not send a second. Like, why would he send a second probe to my base? First of all, he's hiding the first probe. And secondly, he's sending a second one. So this screams he's cannon rushing you. The only time you ever send 2 probes is because you're proxying cannons. Because there's a chance your probe could die. And if the probe dies and he doesn't have a backup probe, he just loses. Like he invests into a proxy, it fails because the probe died, and now he doesn't have any way to like recover. Like if let's say one of the cannons gets killed, it finishes and it dies, and it doesn't have the ability to make more cannons around it. It's worthless. Unless he forgot. If I saw these probes, I would not be like, oh, he just forgot. He sent one at me. You don't really have to react to, like, so think about it like this, okay? Even if this guy forgot that he sent a probe out. Let's say it's that kind of a world, okay? Where you're like, oh, the Protoss, he just forgot. He forgot he's already scouting me. There is no harm in scouting for cheese now. There's zero harm in that. Because I'm not telling you, all right, rip every drone off the mineral line, attack this probe. I'm not telling you to do that. What I am telling you to do is follow this fucking probe with your overlord. And as soon as I saw the second probe, I would give you the thumbs up. I'd be like, this first probe, I would probably go scout for what the fuck he proxied. That's what my goal would be. Go scout his proxy because of this first probe. This is really weird. As soon as I saw the second probe, I would say, okay, you can actually say fuck the scout of the proxy. You can go take your third. It's fine. But you should watch your natural for the cannon rush. That's what I would. That's what I'm telling you to do. Is I'm telling you to play the most likely odds of situations. That's how StarCraft works. You like StarCraft. StarCraft is like this is why people like compare StarCraft to like poker, because when you with all the information this guy just gave you, there are statistics or odds of what your opponent is doing now, what his hand is basically, and he's revealing it to you piece by piece. And I would say the highest odds of what this guy is doing now is a cannon rush, just off of the probe placement. There still could be something else. There, like this high odds of this probe coming from here is a proxy, but this is now also looking like a cannon rush. And if you think about what build, if you like do all the checked boxes and you're like, what build is it? What build does Protoss do that not only cannon rushes you, but it proxies you? There's only one build that does that. And it's proxy gate zealots with cannon rush. So if you really wanted to go really in depth about it and be like, okay, proxy probe placement and cannon rush probe placement, put those two things together, you would already know what you're fighting against before it even happens. It like you would have a very good idea. You'd already be like mentally prepared for it. You'd be like, yep, that's probably what he's doing. And again, the best way to counter that would be getting your fucking your drone down to your third. You can scout it if you want, but I would say taking your third is fine because it's going to be a cannon rush as well, up until the point when you see the gates, and you should not take it. But your drone going down there is wonderful. I think you checking the area is great. The second thing is your overlord though. Your overlord didn't move at all. Like it chilled. It stopped. You were like, ah, fuck it. You really, really, really needed to scout this. This being blind is scary as fuck for you. Because you know it's a cannon rush now, if you watch that second probe come out. And then now you see the gates. And now the second probe is here. Your drone is moving back. Your overlord is just way too far forward. I would say, even if you don't even see two probes, I do not, like the only time your overlord should ever be in front of your natural is when you have confirmed there is no probe in your natural. I do not mind your overlord being in the front if you know, if you can guarantee there is nothing in here. If you can guarantee that. But if there is a probe that ever walks into your base, the worst thing you can do is just leave your shit at the ramp and leave fog spots in your natural. If the second the probe ran in your natural, you should have immediately sent your overlord like this. Like sent it this direction and parked that shit like right here. Because that would reveal any cannon rush that could be there, any cannon rush that could be there, any cannon rush that could be here, any cannon rush that could be over here, and it would even, if it's right there, it would even spot the low ground, or sorry, the low part of the high ground. So you would see cannon rush if there was like a pylon being elevated to your main or something like that. You would see all types of cannon rush. And the second you confirm that it's a gateway, all in, you have two options to defend that. One of your options to defend that is you pull your drones and you literally prevent the cannons from going up in the first place until you get lings, and then you have drones and lings overpower the few zealots that he makes, and you keep denying cannons, and you eventually can just overpower everything. The second way you can defend it is you you cancel this base and you kind of just let him commit to what he's going to commit to, and you could go into like. You could go into Ravager, you could go into Spine. It's less effective because if the Protoss player is smart, you're giving him an advantage if you do that. Because you're almost guaranteeing to yourself that you're going to be on one base if you do this. Because if the Protoss player realizes you're running your drone away, and he follows that drone with just one zealot, he can beat the shit out of your hatchery the entire time while it's building. And then if you let your hatchery finish, it'll be finishing with like 500 hit points left, and that zealot could practically kill the hatchery. Like, just keep beating the fuck out of it. Because if you make two lings right away out of your first larva, when that hatchery finishes, one zealot will beat the shit out of two lings as well. So, and if you wait for 4 lings to be like, alright, we're going to micro these lings and I'm going to kill that zealot, your hatchery just dies then. because that's not, you don't have enough time to do that. Your hatchery would just die. So if this, again, the best way to deal with this, if you know it's proxy gate zealot with cannon rush, is you pull your drones. This is the one exception I would say where you kind of need to pull your drones. If it's just a cannon rush and he's proxying like stalkers with it or immortals, where he's not proxying the gateways first before the cannons, you can just go, you can sacrifice the base and just go Ravagers and expand around it, because the thing about that is that's a delayed unit. Those units are way more delayed because he's cannoning you first and then making gates in the other situations. So it gives you way more time to have a hatchery go up. Hopefully that makes sense. If the gateways come first, you kind of need to pull your drones because it's a delayed cannon rush. It's harder to defend the cannon. It's harder for the Protoss to set it up because he has these expenses first, which means he has less minerals for pylons, less minerals for cannons. He also has the expense of zealots themselves, which even more increases the fact that he'll have less minerals for cannons and pylons, which means he has very low chances to be like pylon, cannon, pylon. Like, he can't just like block himself in and be like, aha, I'm cannoning your face off. Like, you're gonna very realistically get your drones in there and do some denial. He's more or less gonna try to just cover his cannons with zealots. So if you can just delay the cannons from going up until your lings are out, you can then overpower the zealots. Yeah, I think you taking a gas in this situation is not the greatest. It's because I think you're going to go Ravagers. Spines are not great either because what you're doing now, this is what you're doing now. You are guaranteeing the fact that you are now going to one base him. The only, like, and you're going to go Ravagers is what it looks like. This is how I deal with Cannon Rush when it's, like I said, the other type of Cannon Rush, when it's cannons first. Because, again, the units are so much later. But look at this. Look at this. We'll back it up really quick. We'll go to everyone's vision. Imagine if your Overlord followed the first probe in. So, his probe is coming into your base right now. Your Overlord was going this way. Imagine if it keeps going this way, because you're like, oh, probe, cool. Probe's coming in. And then your Overlord follows. Now, here's another tell, right? I just paused it. The second the probe went in the fog. It's like right there. Okay. The probe is right there. If you had to guess, how many seconds would it take for the probe to go from here? For the probe to go from here to here. It's on the same screen length. It's that. How much time would it take for a probe to go from the bottom of that box to the top of that box? My guess would be about 4 seconds. 3 to 4 seconds. So at 140 or 141, that probe had better be popping out of the main. And let's watch and see how long it takes for you to see the probe. From exactly at 137. It took him 10 fucking seconds to pop out. It does not take a probe 10 seconds to go from there to there. Does not. Definitely does not. And also, you gotta keep this in mind too. Here's another tell. The probe did not pop out of fog right here. Because if this guy would have said, I want to scout the Zerg's main base. I want to scout his main. I want to see his gas. I want to see his other gas. I want to see his pool timing. He would have popped out right there. That's what would have happened. Correct? Like, because if he clicks go there, the probe will literally go up the middle of the ramp and it'll go it'll go to the shortest distance possible. But because the probe popped out over here, and he's also going this direction, this means this probe went like this. This if my mouse is the probe, this is how this probe went. He fucking went down because he did not pop out of the fog until he was over here. So he literally went down around the ramp. And that's another tell right there that says that's the same thing as we saw over here when the probe came from this direction. What the fuck is he coming up in a weird direction for? Why is he not coming in a standard direction? Why is he coming up over here? It's because he went down and around the ramp for, and why did he do that? Because he built a pylon. So paying attention to little shit like that, it makes a big difference. as to, you know, reinforcing the fact that this dude is cannon rushing you. But if your overlord saw this right now, again, look how much money the Protoss has, and look at the fact that the gateways are almost done. This guy does not have enough money to be like pylon, 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 cannon. He doesn't have enough money to do that because this is already 400 minerals right here, which is about to be 600 because he needs to build zealots. That's the only way he's going to be able to realistically get cannons up now, is if he builds zealots. So if you saw this with your overlord and you knew it was happening, and you just go, all right, I'm just going to pull like 7 drones or 8 drones, not even your whole mineral line, just like 7 or 8, and you have like 1 drone attacking the probe, and you have like the rest of your drones just like literally zoning the probe out and smacking it if it tries to go near the pylon to build something, or just killing existing cannons, making sure they don't actually finish, and you deny them. Keeping the cannons from going up before the zealots are there is goal number 1 when you're fighting this build. But look what happens instead. Like, you don't really, react to it in the correct way for this specific build, and he gets cannons for free. He just makes the greediest cannons for free. Look at his money again. He's got 285 minerals, and he has not even started his zealots, and his zealots should be starting any second now. And now look at his minerals. He has a second cannon going down right there. 2 cannons, a zealot, and he's got 80 minerals, and he's going to go up to 100, and he's going to build a second zealot. Or he should. He's building a core already. So this guy's honestly not even doing this build the greatest himself, because I do not understand why the fuck he's building a core so fast. And he's like, I guess he's just really confident that you're not killing his cannons, so he doesn't need to rush the zealots out as much. He does not even he's not even using the second gateway, and instead he's making a core. The reason why he's making a core, by the way, is because he wants to make shield batteries. But priority for Protoss here is really out of order. Why the fuck would you make a core before you're even set up? It doesn't make any, like, that's even more reason why if you pulled your drones, this would just be like bitch slapped. You'd be like, later cannon rush, not hard to deal with at all. You would just crush it. So yeah, like this would be very easily denied had you just pulled some boys, basically. And if you would have pulled some boys right when the pylon was being built, I would have literally been like, thumbs up, because then you don't have to cancel the natural. The natural stays alive. The pylon is currently under construction. It's not done yet, so he can't make this cannon here. Because what he wants to do, this is his plan as Protoss. He goes, all right, if the guy pulls drones, I'm going to put a pylon right there, and I'm going to put a cannon right here, and I'm going to maybe put like a pylon right there, or another cannon right there, so his drones can't go up here. This cannon will be enclosed, because if there's, this is literally a wall here. That is a wall. This could become a wall with a pylon, but he's walling the other part of it with another cannon. Like, even if you pulled your drones, like, you know, let's say instead of building the spines, you pulled your drones at that point, you could still just come over here and just smack this cannon, because this is too tight of a location to build a pylon. You cannot build in that location. And if you killed this cannon, you could actually just walk up here now and kill this cannon, because there's no way he can't also fit a building in there either. This is like a one gap. Your drones could actually just surround this cannon on this side, and this side, and you could get about 8 drones hitting that cannon, and you could kill it before it's done. Pulling a drones is super important against this specific cannon rush. But because you're not doing it, you've now subtracted your base count back down to 1 again, and this is honestly what Protoss wants you to do. Because this guy is all mineral here. He's not gas at all. So he could throw a fucking natural down if he really wanted to. He doesn't care at all. Because he's successfully put you back on 1 base. And here comes the zealots. At this point now, though, just know, even before anything's dead, the only resources lost that's happened so far is 2 hatchery cancels, because each hatchery cancel is 75. You canceled 1 here earlier, and you canceled 1 here. Just know, though, already, even like nothing's dead yet, but you were already so far behind for the way that this game is now going to develop. You're not behind in the sense that you're like really behind in drone counts, or you're not behind really in supply. It has nothing to do with that. You're actually just behind, and because this game is now going to develop with you being handicapped really hard. There's no way around it at this point. This guy is going to now contain you forever. He's going to continue for way longer than it needs to happen.
Nice.
And he's just going to get a lead out of it. Even if he doesn't kill you right now, he's going to have a lead to where he'll kill you in the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Okay, well, here's some new information now. Now, this Protoss player, instead of going for a natural, he is now saying, you know what, I'm just gonna robo you. So seeing this, I like this Overlord placement. I would also love an Overlord placement down here too. You know, it doesn't really matter that much. To be honest, your natural shouldn't have died at this point. You're already, like I said before, you're already really behind. But now, I'm not gonna really. I feel like I won't stress it too hard. I'll try to just kind of talk you through this point in the game. But here's the way. This is probably the best way to explain this. I will still finish this replay, but just know up to this point already, this guy has basically like just fucking amputated your legs. And now you're trying to fight a fight from that point. Like, it's really hard for you because of the opener. But in this situation now, this tells me if I were you and now in this situation, I would say, ah, fuck. Okay, we're in a situation where it's a one base versus a one base build. This Protoss player is actually going for robos. Or a robo, which means he's going to be going for immortals with shield batteries, and this is now turning into that kind of a cannon rush. So the best thing that I can do now, honestly, I would say, I like that you're taking your second gas. I would love for you to fully saturate the rest of your main now. Like, make three roaches is fine, because you've already committed to that decision, right? But do not make any more roaches after this, because what I would love for you to do instead is, honestly, maybe take a macro hatch, because you're really fucked right now. Take a macro hatch, because I want you to drone again a little bit. And what I want you to do, or what I would want you to do, is I would love it if you would pretty much don't try to kill him, but try to control the ramp and actually go for a layer kind of fast now. And you have multiple options with going for the layer. You could go for what I would do personally if I was in this situation right now. I would honestly go for a layer, use my spines and 3 ravagers to hold my defense, and I would actually make a drop lord. I would not get overlord speed. I would just make a drop lord because you need a layer for that. And I would actually evacuate one drone first, just one, and I would send that shit like maybe here. It doesn't really matter. It could be over here, somewhere on one of these 2 bases. I would just go make a hatchery, and I would then keep making Ravagers as I had the gas for it, but making Ravagers off of one base, it takes a while to make each Ravager. It's not like you're spending all your larvae on Ravagers. And the excess larvae, I would make drones still. I would actually just keep making drones. And I would literally drone up to like 40 supply. And when my base was when my new expansion was like probably like 60% of the way done, or 70% of the way done, I would start elevating my drones from here to over here. Because if you don't use a Nidus, he doesn't know you're doing this. He doesn't hear it. He doesn't hear with a drop lord like he does with a Nidus. But you need to, if you are now going up against a robo build, but here's the thing though. So the way there's multiple ways to deal with it. I'll finish describing my way first, and I'll talk about another one you can do. The way you kind of need to deal with this, if you're gonna like just go for like a defense on your ramp, you're not trying to break it, because trying to break it, you're gonna start losing a lot of Ravagers, running into cannons, batteries, and mortals. So if you just like literally keep biling the ramp, like one bile, one bile, one bile, one bile, it makes it really annoying for Protoss to engage your base. And then you actually somehow sneak out a ninja base. You could then start going into like, let's say, a total tech switch where you're like, now I have multiple incomes, and I can go into like speedlings with mutas, and I could just go mass ling muta. And then once I have enough units to break that, maybe I like snipe the prism with my mutas, and then he doesn't really he doesn't have the mobility with his immortals anymore, and now I can just overpower him, and then I just win the game because he doesn't have as much money as I do, and I just go mutaling now. That is one way you could deal with it. Another way you could deal with it, honestly, as soon as you see this, is instead of making these roaches into ravagers, you could once again make a second hatchery and just make a layer and just go for a counter Nidus all in. You could do that too. You could literally just go, alright, time to Nidus him. Because being on one base, the grand scheme here is if the longer the game goes on where you're on one base, your chances of losing goes increased. Right now, I would say your chance of losing this game is already like 70%. Just because of the opener. Like you have a much higher chance to lose than to win right now. And then every single 10 seconds that goes by, increase that percentage by 1. You know, and so like we're talking like if you're still on one base and you're not going for an all-in, if you're trying to just bust out of your base with Ravagers against this specific type of opener now, if you're still on one base in the next like 2 minutes, you're 100% chance to lose. You're just dead. There's no way around it. And this is why. Okay? This is why. It harkens back to what we talked about earlier, where I was saying Ravagers are good against cannons first. The drone pull is actually better against gate first when it's like this, because you know it's going to be zealot cannon pressure. But your roaches right now are not ready to become Ravagers, because this is a reaction. It's a delayed reaction, but it is still a reaction, right? You're like, you weren't expecting what you're seeing. Because you saw this too. Like I feel like you're just confused, right? Which is fine. But these roaches are starting, they're like a little bit more than halfway done, which means in 9 seconds they're going to be finished, and then you have to wait for 2 out of the 3 of them to become Ravagers, because you will not mine enough gas to make more than 1 Ravager when these are done. So you'll have 1 Ravager, and then like, I'm not going to be surprised if you actually don't have 3 Ravagers until about 4 minutes and like 30 seconds. Honestly. Or like 440 would be my guess by the time you have 440 would be my guess when you finally have 3 Ravagers. And at 440, this dude will probably have an immortal already out. So here's my point. And this is why I feel like it confuses a lot of people. With the way that this game has developed, you have been stuck into a situation where it feels like you're doing the right idea. You're like, oh, he's going for the immortal proxy. I saw this. ViBE said this is good. I'm gonna make Ravagers, and I'm gonna crush it. But the thing is I actually have Ravagers. My first three Ravagers are actually done when his first shield battery is being built. Okay, this is before the robo's even thrown down, and there's also no zealots here. But my first, like his shield battery would literally be like 2 seconds out of 29 or 3 seconds out of 29. And my 3 Ravagers would already be done. They wouldn't be like starting to morph. They would already be walking towards where they want to bile, and they would be starting to bile something. But instead, you're not going to have, and then that's like before the robos even started. Because if he doesn't open up with zealots like this, he actually has to make batteries to protect his cannons, or else they're just going to die. And then he has to make the robo after. If you are a Protoss player that goes for cannon rush into a robo, and it's like this doesn't exist. He didn't go for gateway proxy. He just tried to make cannons, and then he goes, I'm going to make a robo now. You have a 100% chance to kill that as Zerg if you go, I'm just going to make Ravagers. Because you'll just kill his cannons, because there's no way they have durability then. And then you just kill the robo before it even finishes. It's as simple as that. So you have to, and you don't have infinite money as Protoss. So you have to delay your robo to be like, let's make like 4 batteries so my cannons don't die, and then I'll make a robo. That's the only way that works. But with the way this is working is, like I said before, he's already started the robo for 7 seconds, and your roaches aren't even close to being done yet. They have another 9 seconds to go. So It might not seem it, but your roaches are so fucking delayed now for dealing with this type of thing. His build is also awkwardly set up, but this is like going to be, if you try to bust out of your base, this is never going to work. I would love it if you made a layer right now, with how this is going on. If you made a layer and did the thing I talked about, where it's either defending your base with Ravagers on the high ground and letting him come into you, and then you just fucking like smack him back every time, or you go for the drop lord thing, like I said, and just rotate drones in like an elevator and just mine another base that while he's overcommitted to like cannoning your base here and trying to all in you with one base of his own. Those are the only two ways I literally see you winning from this point.
Be scrapped.
And this is also, I love your overlord being over here. I like that. I really like that it did not die. But I love your overlord giving you the information that he's also not expanding. You see that he's making a robo. He's even making 2 fucking robos. This is really over. He can't afford this, by the way. This is overcommitted. But this is like telling you this. First of all, this tells you he's super all in. So it should give you, you know, that's comfort in knowing that you're not actually going to fall behind if you make the right choice here, which is one of those 2 that I said. Either one of those would work. They're both not ideal, because overall, again, the way the game developed, you're already in a negative position. But those were like the only 2 ways of having like a glimmer of hope to come back. But making the Ravagers is solidifying the fact that you're going to stay on hatchery tech for a long time, so you have no, like, it's forcing you to take the fight against this now. And seeing the second robo is even more so saying this guy's definitely not expanding. He just wants to like inefficiently spend his money, because these like look at this. How long has this first robo been done for? This is inefficiency to the max here. Look at this shit. First robo finishes at 4:03. Okay, let's remember that. 4:03. He starts the first immortal 13 seconds after it's done. And it's not just about the first immortal either. Watch, as soon as he might build immortal number 2 as soon as the first one's done, but watch robo number 2. Okay, so far it's been 13 seconds. Okay, 13 seconds of no uptime in these robos, because you cannot literally 100% uptime these robos with 1 base economy. It's not fucking possible. Now look at this. He's got a second immortal started, right? I won't put another second on that. So far we're at 13 seconds for these immortals. Or the robo's not doing anything, but watch when it's done here. Okay, so we're going again. This is now 14? 15, or just watch the timer. Like, watch them. Watch the buildings. He's making 1 immortal again. So what's the second robo doing? Nothing, because it can't. That robo could have essentially been pretty much almost another immortal, and if he just prioritized chrono boosting this robo, he could have had so many more. That's my point. And because you saw that as well, something like this, you saw that he has 2 double robos, that's even more reason to be like, holy fuck, this guy is super all in. And now that would even, if I was you again, that would make me be like, if I was doing the Nidus counter all in, or if I was doing the Overlord drop shit that I talked about to rotate drones, I would feel even more ahead then, because I would say, wow, this guy is inefficient with his build here. Super inefficient. So it gives me more of a lead if I am actually going to expand around this, or if I'm going to just counter all in him. He's literally going to have less immortals because he made double robo. He doesn't have the economy to sustain that. Which is why, if anyone's confused, why that works that way. He cannot physically afford both robos constantly producing. So he's inefficiently going to make them instead. Like, he's going to have a lot of downtime in the robos. And there's like, and essentially, he's going to have one less immortal because he made that building. And every unit counts really important when you're doing a one base all in. So again, yeah, you being forced to take the fight is the worst thing that could happen here. If you just counter Nidus him, he would just be dead, right? He would be dead. But the way you could abuse the shit out of this guy, instead, would be, let's say your Roach and Ravager are right here, okay? They're further back. And you see where he is the whole time because you have vision. You have creep tumors. You have, you know, creep on the ramp. You're very mobile. All you have to do, right there on the ramp, like right here, an immortal. If you throw a bile down where that green box is, an immortal will get hit by it no matter where it goes on the ramp. If it tries to go around it or through it, it'll get hit by it. If it lands when the immortal's there. So then what you can do, if you look at the cooldown of a corrosive bile, it's 7 seconds. And what is, you know, how many do you have already? You have 4. If you made 3 more Ravagers, you could go bile, 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 bile. Like it would never end. Because a cooldown is 7 seconds and you can throw out 1 every second if you have 7 Ravagers. And it would go, literally, it would refresh the cooldown as you use the first one, and now you're on the 7th one. The very first one's off cooldown again, and it can throw another one, another one, another one, another one. It'll just be indefinite, forever. So, and it's not just what you have to do the entire game. I'm not saying, oh, just do that the entire time and you just win. But if you had a plan, if you have a plan around it, if you have like something else going on and you're not forcing again, it goes back to what I said before, right? I know chat's freaking out right now. I'm reading what you're saying. The plan is not to push this away. Again, the plan is not to fight this. That is not the plan. Because if you're coming in late, I'm not going to explain it again. I repeat everything I said, but TLDR, this is a awkward game that has created a situation where it looks like Ravagers versus Immortals, but instead it's like Immortals on steroids versus Ravagers that are just like wet noodles. The Ravagers were like a full 90 seconds or so, or like 80 seconds later than they should have been. It was really fucking late. Really, really, really late. So it doesn't apply. Like pushing this away no longer applies. Okay? It'd be like saying 2 guys normally are born in the same year, and then we're gonna put them in an MMA ring when they're both 25 years old, and we're gonna see who wins. That'd be a normal game. But this game is like saying we're just gonna get some guy who's 25 and we're gonna have him fight a fucking 13-year-old. Because you're so delayed here. This is so late. So having the expectation that you're gonna push back and fight this shit off it makes no sense. It doesn't work. That is literally what's happening here. It's a Ravager build that is super delayed, trying to fight an Immortal build that is way faster paced than it. And I know there was this too, but he literally made like 2 Zealots and stopped. And then he made like 3 cannons and stopped. He didn't actually make a lot of cannons and Zealots. And then he went straight into Immortals. It was very weird, but yeah. So, again, coming back to my original point, if you control this ramp, okay, if you have a secondary plan, something that is going to put you in a win condition, that would be ideal for you, because you can, instead of forcing the fight to happen, you can stall the fight out. If you bile, like he has to, it's much harder for him to initiate a fight then. And you're not looking for one. You should not be looking for one. And instead, what if, for instance, when you're doing bile, and then out of nowhere, you've bought yourself enough time for a fucking Nidus to scream in his base, and what does he do? That's a win condition. What if instead of him engaging up your ramp right away, because you're zoning him a little bit, you have expansion somewhere else? That's another win condition because he's committed to just going for one base all in with immortals, and you're getting a win condition in another way because you're out economying him and you're rotating your tech into like what I said earlier, like Ling Muta, and you just get this another win condition. What if he recalls 3 immortals with 0 cannons and 0 batteries against Queen, Ravager, Roach, and drones? Zerg wins. If there is no batteries and no cannons here, Zerg wins. Zerg does not lose. Zerg loses instead, but the time that Zerg does lose is when you're fighting Ravagers with Ravagers against Immortals with shield batteries. Lots of them. With cannons. And you're like, fuck, these Immortals never die. Man, like every time I'm trying to like focus fire a Immortal, it's literally full shields again by the time my next volley of auto attacks go off. And instead, every time I am attacking 3 Immortals, I attack him, he's full shields. I attack him, he's full shields. I attack him, he's full shields. After like the 2nd attack, maybe the 3rd attack, my Ravager just died. Let's do it again. Now I'm attacking him a little bit slower because one of my Ravagers out of 4 or 5 just died. Now, same thing again. Oh shit, now it's even another Ravager just died. You're gonna just bleed your army out fighting against shield batteries. Once there's already an established count of Immortals. It's not gonna go well. It's gonna be very difficult. So there, you have to look for a win condition in another way, essentially. But yeah, we'll recap this game in a second. I think it is almost over, because I could definitely see that you're about to die. These 2 robos not building anything for the longest time is really bugging me. I like your I love that you're trying to do it, but we're gonna recap again in just a second, Spectre. So hopefully, if you have any questions, I wanna definitely get to the bottom of them. Okay, so yeah, you are. I could definitely agree with you at that point. You were like, your Ravagers are gonna not break this. You're gonna die. Now, first of all, Mr. Spectre, do you have any questions on the top of your head right now that you can think of? Otherwise, I'll go into overview mode of talking about a quick conclusion to all of this. But please feel free. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Lings are kind of sketchy too, just because it's a situation where you're on 1 base again, and it's you're behind as Zerg. It was pretty clear. Okay, so I'm gonna do a conclusion then, a recap. So here's my thoughts and analysis. Okay, this is the overall thoughts. Against a player that does what this guy did, the correct response is do not let the cannons go up initially, way earlier in the game. Not letting the cannons go up in the first place, because you could easily shut these cannons down, and the whole point of doing it is you shut the cannons down over and over and over until your Lings are out, and as soon as your Lings are out and your Queens start spawning, you can easily overpower his Zealots. Even if he's saving Chrono Boost to literally go Chrono as many times as he can, you will still overpower him. The only way this works for Protoss is if you let cannons go up. Because suddenly, if you let, like, even just 1 cannon, if you let even 1 cannon go up and it's done, and it's full health, and 2 Zealots arrive next to it, those 2 Zealots might as well be like 5 Zealots now. Seriously. Like, they're so much stronger than they were before. Because that cannon is not only a ranged attacking unit, it attacks about as fast as a Zealot does. It attacks very fast. And it 2-shots your units. It 2-shots your Lings, essentially. It does 3-shot a drone because a drone has 1 hit point of regen when it gets shot by a cannon. But my point is that drones are not really going to do well anyways against Zealots, and they're also not going to do well against cannons if the cannons are done. Trying to kill full HP cannons and Zealots with drones is going to be a nightmare for Zerg. Lings, however, can kill them because Lings actually do way more DPS than drones do. But lings will also die very fast, so your DPS falls off really quickly if the cannon's there. So again, drones, the goal of your build now would be do not let a cannon finish. Make lings as fast as you can and stop spinning your larva. Like literally, the perfect way to play it would be you make your pool and you make units until your pool. You literally spend every larva you can until your pool is at 16 out of 46. And the reason why that is because a hatchery generates one larva just about every 10 seconds. And you want to ideally have 3 larvae just in time for that pool to be finished, so you can make 6 lings right away. You don't want to have 3 larvae sitting there for like 20 seconds and then your pool's done and then you make your lings because you just missed out on 2 larvae there because you could have made 2 more drones or an overlord and then make 3 lings anyways, or 3 larvae of lings anyways. So the perfect way to do it is go, okay, are we at 16? Stop spinning my larva. If we're at 1, or I'm just starting the pool, you can still spin your larva. You can spin 1 or 2 more larvae, depending on when it's spawning. Because the timer is not going to be exactly when you start the pool. It doesn't work like that. You might start a pool halfway through a larva timer. You know what I mean? But just to be safe, spin all your larvae until you're at 16, and then you stop, right? Then you just stop. Because you're like, okay, well, even if I'm larva capped for 4 seconds, that's fine. 4 seconds is not the end of the world, but it's you know, it's way better than having no larva when my pool's done, and it's also way better than being larva capped for like 24 seconds. So 16 seconds, you let larva pile up and make sure you're not supply blocked as well when you're doing that. So if you're really close to supply blocking, one of those larvae you spend before the pool's done is definitely going to be an overlord, right? The second thing you do is those lings then come down and help your drones, and you fight with the drone and ling simultaneously. And you don't have to be all drones, by the way. It literally could be your first 8 drones you pull to deny these cannons. 8 drones. Like, you can make more if this guy delays his zealots to be like 4 cannons at once. You can pull more drones if you need to, but roughly around 8 drones gets the job done. And then your lings get there, and you will have to fight against zealots initially. You can fight with your drones and your lings at the same time against the zealots. You can try to micro your best to where if a zealot smacks a drone twice, you pull it off it so your drone doesn't die. And then, you know, but if you manage to successfully do that, a drone actually absorbed damage from a zealot while your lings are smacking the shit out of it, and you didn't even lose the drone, and you win that fight convincingly hard if you do it like that. If you don't micro very well and you let your drones die, it's still not bad for you, but it could be better. But as long as you overpower the zealots and kill them, and then now you have a bunch of lings with no zealots in the vicinity, then your lings can clean up the pylons, your lings can clean up whatever's left, kill the probe, and then you're good to go. And then you're going to play a game from there where you're ahead because he failed a proxy cannon plus gateway rush. And you're so far ahead. And that would be like a guaranteed advantage for you. The rest of the game was awkward because you were just so far behind after he transitioned. But if this did not exist, okay, and this guy was straight up just doing this first, if there was no gates and he just went straight forge, and you know, like, let's just say we're gonna go backwards like 30 seconds into the game to where, you know, he didn't make gateways and shit, but he is doing this first, I would then agree, I would 100% agree with you if he like, okay, because there's one thing I think you might be confused on, and this is it, okay? Proxy gate over here is 100% going to be for zealots. This is the reason why. This is something I didn't explain, and I really want you to know this. The reason why this is 100% zealot is because this is 2 gateways really fast. This is, again, it's gateways before he's even started a cannon. And it's also really far away from his proxy. Like, he basically sent out his probe, and his second pylon he built was, like, he built these gates before he even had a gas. And he also built these gates, like, he just built them really early. The earlier the gate, the more likely it's zealot. And the further away from the proxy of his cannons, the more likely it's going to be zealots. This is definitely going to be zealot. Like, just the positioning and the timing of it is zealots. However, if this guy made like, let's say a cannon right here, and then he made a gateway right there, and then like another gateway right there, or some shit. Like he makes proxy gates with the cannons. Those gateways would, number one, be in the rush. They would be actually located into the rush of the cannon rush. Like they would be in the same vicinity. And those gateways would effectively be starting later than this. Which means it gives the Protoss more time to properly saturate his mineral line plus get gas going. So those gateways would be for stalkers. If that's what he was doing. And that is when I would then agree with you to make spine crawlers. I do not agree with you to make spine crawlers if it is a early gateway zealot, and it's also far away. The further away and the earlier it's zealot, the closer it is and the later it is, stalkers. Because the reason why that works like that is because timing of the gateway tells you amount of resources Protoss has. And if he makes a zealot, if he makes gateways the fucking second he can, off like a first proxy pylon, like over here, not even up in your face, but it's over here. This is 100% before he has gas. And you're not going to make gateways this early without gas and then be like, we're making stalkers. You know what I mean? He just doesn't have the resources to make stalkers. So, but if you think it's stalker pressure, if you're pretty sure it's stalker pressure because of what we just talked about, the spine colors you made were, I agree, thumbs up. Thumbs up. But how would you react then if it's proxy zealot then? That's how I told you before, right? You pull like 8 drones, you deny the cannon from going down. You literally stop the cannon from going down. Because it's this build right here is definitely cannon zealot. 8 drones, you delay the cannons and you make lings. With the whole thing we talked about with like 16 seconds and you make the lings. The second the lings are there, and there will still be zealots in the vicinity, because the whole point of this build now is his zealots are supposed to protect his cannons to go up. That's what's supposed to happen. So you kill the zealots with your lings and drones, and then you overpower the cannons as well. You never let the cannons go up with the drones. That's your whole goal with the drones, because the drones will be there before the zealots are actually there, and then you're good to go. You don't even need spines in that situation if you use your drones properly. The spines are just one more thing that puts you further behind. The whole reason why spines are good against proxy gate cannon rush is because it's for stalkers, and the reason why it's important is because stalkers can actually walk into your base and kill your drones. Zealots can't do that. If you have Ravagers, if you're going Ravagers and you're fighting off against gateways, you can just be like, all right, I'm gonna keep corrosive biling your buildings. I'm gonna try and control the ramp, whatever. But if the Protoss player has like batteries right here, and like let's say he has like a cannon and like 3 batteries on the low ground right here, and like a second cannon and like 2 batteries on the high ground, and his stalkers are like walking forward and they're smacking a drone and backing up, and they take a couple pot shots from the Ravagers, but they just back up the batteries and they get full healed, and they walk forward, pick off a drone, back up, get full healed, walk forward, pick off a drone, back up, get full healed, walk forward, pick off a drone. That sucks ass for you, and there's no way you can fight against that, because what are you gonna do every time? Just run your middle line away every time he walks forward? That's also sucks, because you're gonna get really inefficient mining that way. But if you have a spine, if it's stalker, if you have a spine, like let's say like a spine here and like a spine here, every time he walks forward, he's getting smacked really hard by spines, because a spine crawler does the same damage as like 2 Ravager shots. It does 35, and a Ravager does 16, so it's even more than 2 Ravager shots. So, and it does 35 to an armored unit, by the way, for people who are wondering. It does 25 to non-armored. So what that means is his stalkers are going to be getting fucking slammed every time they come try to like smack your drones. So his batteries are going to deplete really fast. So he can't kill your drones for as long as he would otherwise. That's why it makes sense to build spines against stalker cannon pressures. It doesn't make it, and also it would make sense again to make spines if it was 4 gates, because then there's no cannons at all, and then you could actually make like 3 spines to leapfrog forward and control the zealots. Does that all make sense? I hope that makes sense. But against cannon zealot, no spines. All spines do is guarantee this base is going to get canceled, because you're not making lings then. Or queens. One of them is going to be skipped. And you're losing the ability to aggressively push this away. You guys are right, actually. It does 30. Yeah, it does 30 to armored. I had to look at that because I wasn't sure now. But yeah, it does 30 to armored. So it fucking wrecks a stalker. It basically does, if it does 30, it does slightly less than 2 Ravager shots by 2 damage. Actually, this means one spine hit only does 1 damage less than 2 Ravager shots. Because spine hitting once only gets affected by armor once, but actually that's not true. Yeah, you're hitting shields, you're not hitting the armor. Armor doesn't matter because you're hitting shields. Shields are always 0. So never mind, I take it back. It's always 2 when shield batteries are involved. Anyways, I hope that all makes sense. Spectre, thank you very much for getting a replay analysis. And for everyone out there, this has been a an in-depth look at dealing with multiple types of cannon rush, but specifically this one was proxy gate cannon rush. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best of luck, Spectre, you especially. Feel free to ask me more questions through my stream in the future if you have any more concerns about this or you forgot something, and I will link you this VOD a little bit later today, man. But thank you guys. If you liked it, watch more. I have a lot of these things. Check them out. Check them out if you like it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody. Goodbye.